Hello, friends. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on another Saturday. And happy Valentine's Day or Single Awareness Day. We are continuing our series on workplace toxicity. And I would like to start with a question. Have you ever walked into work and felt your chest tighten, your stomach drop, or your energy completely drained before the day even started? Listen, no emails, no meetings, but your body already knew. Some of you are tired before your feet hit the floor. Your jaw is tight, your shoulders are up here, and you haven't even checked your inbox. You're snapping at people that you actually like, zoning out at red lights, and replaying conversations in your head like you're on trial and the verdict isn't looking good. That's not you being dramatic. That's your nervous system saying, I don't feel safe. And if your mood changes the second you think about work, that's information because a job can be stressful without being toxic. And when your workplace starts messing with your sleep, your confidence, and your sense of self, that's harm. That's harm. So let's define what is a toxic work environment. Well, sometimes it's not obvious. Sometimes it whispers, okay? It's that meeting where you leave confused, but somehow you feel like you messed up. It's the feedback that's vague, but the consequences are very clear. It's watching rules apply to you, but not everyone else. And you may be asking yourself, is it me? Let me stop you right there. If you've been over explaining, over performing, shrinking just to keep the peace, you're not weak. You're responding to dysfunction. And today we're going to talk about it. We're breaking down what a toxic work environment actually is, how to spot the signs early, and how gender and race can shape how toxicity shows up, and what you can do to protect your mental health and start healing, because that is key. So I want you to drop in the comments, where are you tuning in from? City, state, or country? Because if this video found you, there's a reason. So I just want to introduce myself for those who are new. My name is Jenny Gaston. Welcome back, friends. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and we're going to talk about toxic workplaces, the kind that make you question yourself while everyone else calls it the culture. So far, if this content is your vibe, kindly subscribe. This helps push this resource to more viewers. So let's dive into the 6 main signs of a toxic workplace. 1, there's constant micromanagement. You're not trusted. Your autonomy is stripped away. 2, there's poor communication. Decisions are made behind closed doors. Expectations are unclear. All right, and you're blamed for not reading minds. 3, you will find favoritism. Certain people get grace, flexibility, and opportunities, while others are criticized and overlooked. And we're not talking about accommodations here. 4, there's a high turnover rate. People are leaving or they're showing up like zombies, just mentally checked out. There's bullying, intimidation, sometimes overt, sometimes subtle, and it could show up as exclusion, public embarrassment, okay? 6, there's burnout culture, unrealistic expectations. Your worth is measured by how much you sacrifice. It doesn't matter if you're on vacation. You better answer that email or join that meeting. If this sounds familiar, go ahead and drop a comment below and let me know which one you're dealing with. And we're going to talk about the part of toxicity that's quiet, the subtle, hidden type. The feeling like you're walking on eggshells, that constant second guessing, the unspoken rules you're expected to follow, but no one says out loud. It could be being left out of meetings, decisions, or conversations that directly impact your role. It's when your ideas are ignored until someone shares it and all of a sudden it's brilliant, right? That kind of toxicity can even be more damaging because it's harder to explain and harder to prove. And it's easier to internalize, right? So if your workplace toxicity is subtle, not explosive, let me know in the comments. I see you, okay? Now, toxic workplaces do not impact everyone equally. Gender, race, sexuality, religious beliefs often shape how toxicity is experienced. Women, especially women of color, are often held to higher standards and given less grace. There's pressure to be perfect, be agreeable, be assertive, but not too much. Mistakes are remembered longer. Boundaries are respected less. And speaking up is often labeled as being difficult or emotional. And for people of color, there can also be added layers of isolation, stereotyping, and having to constantly prove competence. This isn't about playing oppression Olympics. It's about acknowledging that context matters. And if you ever felt gaslit or minimized and tried to explain your experience, that alone can be traumatizing. Comment traumatizing in the comments, guys. But there are resources. So organizations like NAMI, NAMI is the acronym, do offer support groups and resources. There is also a website called the Toxic Workplace website where you can take a quiz to identify to see if there are toxic patterns where you work. I also want to invite you to my Facebook support group. If you're on Facebook, it's called No Contact, Not Chronicles, where we openly talk about toxic dynamics, healing, and reclaiming your voice. And I'll leave the links in the description. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, drop the word support in the comments, okay? And this is the feeling wheel. And so how are you feeling this morning as we talk about all of this? All right, and I do want to give you some tools, some journal prompts. If you're dealing with workplace trauma, here are a few prompts you can sit with. I like to use a notebook. Sometimes I use my phone, but you can always pause the video or watch the replay. So the first prompt is, what made you feel unsafe or devalued? 2, how does your body respond when you think about your job? 3, are there certain people who are consistently protected while others are blamed? 4, what boundaries do you need to uphold to feel emotionally safe? And you don't have to answer all of them, just start with one, okay? And remember, healing doesn't require perfection, just honesty. You don't have to, like I said, answer all these prompts. Just go with the flow. And if you enjoy this content, go ahead and send me some love, guys. Send me some hearts. Share this live, subscribe. And just know that sometimes you got to let people be who they are. In the last live, we talked about that. I'll link that. Let them show you how the culture. You might need to stop over-explaining, over-performing, and over-functioning. And guess what? Then clarity shows up. That clarity doesn't mean you tolerate harm. It means you stop internalizing it. And if this perspective helped you from the last video, comment Let Them below, and make sure to read Let Them by Mel Robbins if you haven't done so. It's a great resource. And so before we close, I want to say this. If you are an employer or a leader watching this part is for you, because culture starts at the top. Toxic environments don't form overnight. They're allowed. Being passive is not it. So here are 5 ways employers can create safe spaces for staff. 1, model psychological safety. Don't just talk about it, be about it. If employees are afraid to speak up, that's not a communication problem, that's a safety problem. People should be able to ask questions, admit mistakes, or disagree respectfully without fear of humiliation or retaliation. And if people speak up just to agree with you, that's not alignment. Okay? This goes with relationships too. That's not alignment. That is anxiety, afraid to, right, rub you the wrong way, because how can two individuals constantly agree? I would say the second thing that leaders can do is create clear expectations and consistent accountability. Inconsistent standards create resentment. If policies apply differently, depending on who someone is, that's not flexibility, that's favoritism. Safe workplaces are predictable, not rigid, but predictable. Clarity reduces anxiety. Number 3, address conflict early. Avoidance is not leadership. When bullying is minimized, especially in a workplace, it spreads. A strong personality is not an excuse to make everyone feel small. Silence from leadership often feels like approval. 4, respect work-life boundaries. Burnout is not a badge of honor. If someone feels guilty for taking a PTO or fears retaliation for logging off, that's a culture issue. So it's important as employers to encourage self-care, right? And not send 9 p.m. email. All right. Number 5, invest in mental health proactively. So support should not only show up when someone is ready to crash out, right? They're breaking down. Let's normalize these conversations about stress. Offer emotional intelligence and address biases openly. When employees feel emotionally safe, productivity increases naturally. You don't have to squeeze it out. All right. And so if you're watching this thinking, oh, I just wish my workplace operated like that, just know you're not asking for too much. You're asking for basic respect. So let me leave you with this. Recognizing a toxic workplace is not weakness, it's awareness. And awareness is the first step toward healing and freedom. So I hope that all this content was beneficial towards you. And I appreciate the love I see here. Yes, in the comments, Therapy Saturday by Musin. Jacqueline, thank you for joining. And yes, if you're just tuning in, just make sure to watch the replay. We were talking about signs of a toxic work environment, and how employers can create that safety and vulnerability. And I also want to leave you with a few cognitive behavioral journal prompts that you can apply, not just for workplace stress, but just everyday stress, whether you deal with struggle with anxiety, depression, or PTSD, or you just had a bad week. You're like, I had a bad week. I'm going to give you 6 cognitive behavioral therapy journal prompts to support you. Okay, so real quick. The first prompt is, what happened? What happened, or how was my week? So you talk about what happened in chronological order. Number 2, how do I feel? How do I feel? Many times when I ask my clients, how do they feel? They tell me what they're thinking about, right? They turn into the analytical side because it's safer. But no, I want you to tell me, how do you feel? And this is the feeling wheel. You can Google feeling wheel to get this diagram. It's great for teens and kids, okay? Once you're able to identify your feelings, you want to ask yourself, what are my inner thoughts? And document that. We think thousands of inner thoughts to ourselves, but many times we don't even acknowledge them, right? They're like open tabs. They lag us, right? Just like a computer lags when you have too many tabs open. Sometimes we have to put those inner thoughts in a container. This is why journaling is so effective. Like I said, you can use your phone, you can use a notebook. And once you identify your inner thoughts, prompt number 4, you want to challenge those thoughts. You want to ask yourself, is there any evidence to support these thoughts? Or prompt number 5, is there any evidence to challenge these thoughts? This is what I call reality testing. Many times our thoughts are based on past trauma, anxiety, our fears, they're not really based on the moment. And so by challenging your thoughts, you're able to get a bird's eye view and really reset. Okay. And once you're able to challenge your thoughts, you want to ask yourself, what did I learn from this, from journaling? Okay. And so I recommend that you journal using cognitive behavioral therapy prompts at least twice a week. Sometimes it may not apply. Sometimes you can do a gratitude journal. But if you're consistent, in about 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to memorize those prompts. And guess what? Then it'll be internalized so that in a moment when you're triggered, instead of going to your default settings, right, your default way of thinking, these prompts will be used as breakers to help to slow down your reaction time. So instead of just react to your trigger, you will respond, which is what we want. And so the beautiful thing about our brain is that our brain is neuroplastic. We form trillions of new connections each day. So just joining on this live and learning these tools, your brain is firing up and you're able to say, you know what? I'm going to move different. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to use these prompts. I'm going to practice them, because the power of any tool is how often you use that tool when you don't need it. Okay. Don't only journal when you're having a bad week. Journal when things are going well, because by doing that, you have a mind-body connection. And so when you need that tool, it's going to come in automatically, right? It's just like if you are someone who's licensed to carry and you say, you know what, I'm going to purchase this firearm, but I'm not going to take a gun safety class. I'm not going to go to the gun range and practice. Then if an intruder breaks into your house, that tool will actually be more harmful for you than good. You're more likely to hurt yourself because you haven't practiced using it. Okay, it's the same concept. You want to use these mental health tools, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's using movement to ground yourself, cognitive behavioral journal prompts on a consistent basis, once or twice a week, so that when you really need it, instead of going to your maladaptive ways of coping, these tools will come to you naturally. So I hope that makes sense. But if you enjoyed this live, show me some love. Go ahead and give me some hearts. Subscribe if you haven't done so you don't miss the next live. And I have other content if you're interested. I have videos on that how to treat anxiety naturally, perimenopause and menopause. If you're in your late 30s, 40s, and early 50s, if that apply. Also have content about depression and different mental health tools. So definitely browse through on my channel and check out the playlist. But thank you so much for joining me on your Saturday. As always, much love, guys.